I was laid off. She flew across the country to meet me. I missed 2 days for job interviews, and now she left saying I broke her trust. I, 27 male, laid off recently, have been talking to this girl every day for hours over the past 8 months. We both invested a lot of time and emotions, and it was in our plans for many months that she would visit my city so we could finally spend time together. I'm not good at starting stories. I never am. So let me just say this straight. Meeting her was the closest thing I've had to a clean, surprising good thing in a long while. She's sharp, funny in a way that makes me actually laugh out loud, and she cares enough to remember the tiny dumb things I say. We fell into long late-night talks, bad movie marathons over poor connections, dumb voice notes about our days, the whole online romance starter pack. After the first 3 months, it stopped feeling like someone online and started feeling like a real person in my life. We planned. We made lists. We joked about matching hoodies. We talked about the stupid little rituals we'd have when we finally met. Coffee at the corner place, the stupid museum with the weird modern art, a bar she'd like from a post I'd made ages ago. I say all that because the weight of what happened isn't just about 5 days. It's about 8 months of daily wiring and rewiring, of me trusting someone with how stupidly fragile I felt after losing my job, and of her trusting me to keep a plan that meant a lot to both of us. It's the difference between late-night talk optimism and the grinding stress of real life showing up and fucking with those plans. Quick background, because it matters. I was laid off right before her trip was supposed to happen. I didn't hide it because I'm not proud, but I also didn't parade it around. The truth is it was humiliating. I'm the kind of guy who's always been kind of proud of handling his life. Suddenly, I was back living with my parents, my old room, my old stupid posters, my dad's jokes that make my face ache. Interviews were stacking up. A few were promising, one fell through at the last minute. Another turned into a test I failed because my brain was full of stress. I was trying to keep everything from collapsing. Interviews, rent, expectations where there were none, the polite charade of an adult who has it together, and this relationship that felt too precious to let flake because of something I'd been hit with. When she confirmed she would come, I told her everything I thought she should know, that I was between jobs, that I was staying with my parents for a bit, that my schedule could be weird because I had interviews that week. I said it in a casual way because I wanted her to come and not to feel like money and stability were prerequisites for seeing me. I wanted to be honest, but not dramatic. She was fine with it. She said, "I want to meet you. I don't care where you live. I want you." That felt like a gift. So we set the dates. 5 days. She'd arrive on a Friday afternoon and leave the following Tuesday. We made a little itinerary of things we'd do. We didn't plan every minute, but we had a couple of anchor points. Saturday evening dinner, Sunday museum, Monday a lazy day, and then Tuesday morning goodbye. I promised her I would be around. I specifically told her, "I'll be there. I'll make sure I'm free." I'm in it, and I believed it. Part of the problem is how we both weight promises. For us, small commitments have been proof of seriousness. I don't think either of us realized how fragile that promise could be when the rest of life started to wobble. Then the week hit. The timing was, as I said earlier, brutal. On Wednesday before she arrived, I got a call to come in for an in-person interview on Saturday afternoon. It was with a company that actually mattered, a small place that could, with the right fit, offer something steady. This was one of those interviews that you can't just shrug off. They wanted to see me in person, meet me face to face, and that afternoon was the only slot they had for the next month. I knew this was the kind of maybe that could turn things around for me. I told them yes immediately. Then my phone blew up with nervousness. What if I had to cancel plans? What if she thought I flaked? I tried to juggle. I suggested to her we could meet Friday night and Sunday night and keep Saturday for the interview. She was visibly disappointed in a text. Something like, "Oh, that's okay." The ellipsis in text between people who love each other is a weapon. I felt it. She tried to be okay. She sent me a little voice note later that night. "I get it. I want you to get this job, babe." She was being supportive, but there was a tone underneath it. The next day, Friday, she arrived. She looked exactly like her pictures, but softer. We hugged for probably too long and sat in my old car like idiots, not wanting to say goodbye to the idea of us finally being together. The first night was everything a first few hours should be. Awkward, electric, ordinary. We went to the corner coffee place, then walked to a park and sat on a bench, and I told her stupid stories about my dad. She laughed and tucked her hair behind her ear and said things that made my chest tighten. For that night, it felt right. Saturday morning, I woke up wired. I had an early interview prep call, 2 sample tasks to review, and then the interview at 2 p.m. We had breakfast at my parents' kitchen table. Yes, with my mother hovering like she always does, and we made small talk like nothing strange about an adult sleeping in his childhood room while his girlfriend was in town. I hate how convenient shame is. It makes you perform normalcy. I left for the interview and told her to have a lazy day. Go see the museum, get lunch, text me. She said she'd go with a small smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. At 2 p.m., I walked into the interview. It's weird to tell someone how you feel 1 minute and then stand in the sterile fluorescent light of a conference room the next. I tried to focus, but I could feel my phone in my back pocket like a second heart. My head felt divided between the interviewer asking me about frameworks and this other life I had waiting in the city as if nothing else mattered. The interview was okay. It went well enough that I left feeling hopeful. But on the way home, my phone buzzed. She was upset. She said she'd been in the museum for 5 hours waiting around and feeling alone. She'd gone to the cafe we'd talked about, but I wasn't there. She wrote, "I thought you said you'd be there. You promised we'd do this together." She was angry in a way of someone who feels betrayed. Not wild, but wounded. I tried to text back, explain, be apologetic and practical, but she cut the call short. She sent a voice note, quiet but sharp. "You told me you'd be there for Saturday. You said you would not cancel. I booked my whole trip around that." The phone hummed with her anger, and I felt suddenly like a shitty movie lead who didn't see the obvious problem until it was halfway through. I told her I had an interview, and it came up last minute. I told her I told the company how important the weekend was, but they said the slot was final. She replied, "Why would you take that without checking with me? You knew I'd be here." That landed like a cold puddle. We argued over voice notes. I told her I was trying to secure my future. She told me she felt like a consolation prize. She said she'd flown across the country, and I had used an interview as an excuse. Neither of us was exactly polite. It was the kind of argument that digs into every insecurity. Her fear of being second, my fear of being inadequate. I could see where she was coming from. If you're planning the most tangible thing, someone's physical presence, you'd expect someone to clear all the big rocks. In my defense, I'd assumed an interview that could lead to a job would be forgiven. In hindsight, that was a misread. I should have told her the moment they called. I should have asked how important Saturday was for her. I should have structured my week differently. I didn't. That afternoon, I showed up at the museum anyway. She was sitting by the fountain, eyes red, no makeup, a weathered expression like someone who'd been trying to pretend and failed. We didn't speak at first. I sat, and we both stared at the water like it was a third person between us. She said, "So this is what you do when you say you'll be there." She was cold, and I'm not good with cold. I dug in, defensive and stupid, and said, "I was at an interview. I cannot go to an interview that might feed me." She leaned back like I'd slapped her and said, "You could have told me, and we could have planned different. You could have chosen me." I remember the shame like a physical taste. Not because I had wronged some contract, but because I had failed to see how my actions would look through another person's eyes. In my head, it was a rational trade-off, job or date. In her eyes, it was a choice that devalued our time together after months of building something. We walked the museum in silence, and the whole trip felt shrunk, like a film that had lost its color. We did spend the evening together. I took her to a small pizza place, the one with sticky floors but good garlic dough. Our conversation was stilted, like two actors who had memorized the lines for a scene they'd never rehearsed. She asked me, "Did you think I was just going to wait?" I told her no, that I thought she'd understand. She told me understanding shouldn't be the test of love. We fought under the smell of oregano and hot cheese. I said things I regret now, small mean things grown from a stress root, and she said things in return that stamped on the parts of me that were already raw. Sunday was better in a way because it was deliberate. We woke late, walked around a flea market, and the world felt softer because we had a day to do little things with no expectation of grand gestures. We sat on a bench and traded childhood embarrassments. She held my hand like she was making a small deposit into an account of trust. For a few hours, it felt like the old us, like the 8 months of late-night calls had paid off. She said, "I don't want to throw this away." I told her the same. I try to show it by being present, by putting my phone face down for long stretches, by asking about the things she cared about. Then Monday came, and with it, the catastrophe that undid much of the weekend. I had a second interview, one that was a bit more casual, but could lead to something. It was in the late morning. I planned to take her to a park after, plan a cute picnic, make up for Saturday. But that morning, my dad marched into my room with a bill in his hand and a face like a storm. Turns out my mother had mixed up some payments, and the car insurance was due as soon as possible, or we risked a lapse. My dad asked me to help with a chunk of it. I had nothing. I told him I needed to wait for the next paycheck from a job I didn't have. He's never asked me for money in my adult life, and seeing him like that, not angry, not pleading, just tired, triggered something in me. I told him I would try to get a cash advance at the bank, that I could take out a small one. He told me, "No, don't." He said, "You need to focus on finding work, not lending us money." His voice had a new patience, the kind that says you've been helped way longer than you realized. It made me want to vomit. I walked out and tried to act normal for 3 minutes, and then called the bank and got denied for an advance because I had no recent income. I felt trapped. Her phone buzzed as if it were reading me. She messaged, "Are you okay?" I wrote back a lie. "Yeah, just stressed, had family stuff." We both knew family stuff was a way of avoiding telling her I was fumbling everything. Then she sent me a picture of the picnic basket she'd bought, folded neatly where she was staying. The intended plan was clear. We would have a picnic Monday afternoon and maybe go to a bar after. I told her to come over in the afternoon and we'd figure it out. She did. When she walked into my parents' house, the room tightened. My mother tried to be discreet, but she kept hovering and asking if she needed anything. My dad made a joke that fell flat. I could feel her shrinking in my living room, wanting to be normal, but being treated like an awkward guest. She ate lunch and tried to be light. Then my phone rang. It was the company from the Saturday interview saying we could come in for a last stage whiteboard test Monday afternoon, the one-time slot they had before they closed the process. If I passed, it could be the job. If I didn't, well, I'd be back at zero. I looked at her across the room and felt an animal cough up a decision. I could take the test and maybe, finally, have something that would let me stop being a burden. Or I could stay and give her the Monday she'd been promised. It sounds simple to write, but it felt like choosing between breathing and not drowning. I told her the truth. They offered a last slot, I said. She had been quiet for a while, and for a second I thought she'd take it. Instead, she got up, put on her jacket, and said, Go get it. Do not make me the person who ruins your chance. I'll understand." Her voice was steady but small. I felt like some sanctimonious bastard who had been handed a martyr's rope. I kissed her, maybe clumsily, and told her I'd be back in 2 hours. She smiled not fully, like someone who had been asked to believe in a future with missing scaffolding. She walked back to her place, and I left. I killed the test. I did. I answered every problem, explained my thinking clearly, and sort of impressed them. On the way out, I got the "we'll be in touch" that all hopeful people get. It's the strangest thing. You can leave a room knowing you performed well and still have knots in your stomach because you chose a test over the person in front of you. I remember feeling both hollow and oddly proud. When I returned, she was not there. Her bag was gone. Her messages were short. I can't do this. I can't be the person always understanding. I feel like a backup plan. She told me over the phone that she'd been crying and packed early and left. She said she'd hoped the weekend would be different, that we'd have more real time, and that instead she felt like a guest in a life I wanted to fix before she could be part of it. She said, "I can't be with a man who tells me I'm a priority only when it's convenient." She was right in the moral sense. She was right that my choices had communicated something she could not accept. But she was wrong about some things too. She assumed I didn't want her to be a priority. I did. I wanted her to be a priority, except that the way to make that possibly durable was to get a job and stop being the embarrassed guy on his parents' couch. It felt like we were trapped in different definitions of priority. For her, it was presence. For me, a promise that presence would be sustainable. Neither definition is objectively wrong, but both are valid in the small, private ways that make relationships fail or succeed. After she left, I texted her long message apologizing, trying to explain, try to negotiate. I wrote things like, "I'm sorry I failed you, and I wanted to get this job so we'd have options." She replied once, "Actions, not words." That killed me. Action is what I thought I was doing. I had gone and tried to secure a future, but her action was a missing body in a museum fountain on a day we had planned. She wanted the action that meant be alongside me through the first real test of whether we were people together or two people with overlapping time. We both expected different tests. It's been a few weeks. I've been trying to reach her. I've left voicemails that sound clumsy and needy. I've texted reasonable things and not so reasonable things. One day I wrote, "If you want to move on, I get it. But please don't erase the months we spent building this." She replied with something brutal and final. "I'm not erasing it. I'm moving forward. I can't live waiting for you to get your life in order. I deserve someone who is present now, not later." She said she wishes me luck. She told me to forget about what we planned. The last message was a curt goodbye. I felt everything at once: regret, anger, humiliation, and ache so dense it'd weight. I hit my head against the bad architectural moment that is my couch and thought, am I really such an asshole? Did I fail morally? Or were we just two people whose timelines collided badly? I replayed every interaction. I tried to feel what she had felt. Not just her anger, but the loneliness of expecting one thing and getting another. I understand now, painfully, that promising someone you'll be there and then missing 2 of 5 days is a betrayal in the currency of relationships. Context matters, but the pain of the other person often overrides context. Friends have given me hot takes. My best friend said, "You did what you had to do." She came knowing your situation. My other friend, who's been married a long time, said, "You should have canceled the interview or found another slot." When people make big efforts to be with you, you need to be responsive. My mom called and said, "You can see both sides. But if a woman flew out for you, maybe you should have rearranged." My dad said one line I'll never forget. Sometimes life asks you to choose. Choosing work over someone you want to build with is painful, but maybe temporary. Choosing someone who wants you only when it's convenient is different. He had a way of saying both things without settling. I'm trying to be brutally honest with myself. What did I do wrong? I failed to coordinate. I failed to communicate with urgency. I made assumptions about what support looked like, thinking that sacrificing time for work was an understandable adult choice. I didn't appreciate how much proof she needed in the moment to feel safe. She needed me physically there in the concrete, not an abstract plan for stability. Where did she go wrong? I don't like to frame it as where she went wrong, because I know grief makes people fight. But I think she might have expected my life to be prettier than it was. She might have expected a man her age to be established and steady and not living with his parents. Maybe she needed someone who already had the scaffolding in place. That is fair, even if it hurt. People are allowed their boundaries and thresholds. It's just that I thought we were both building the scaffolding and that the tension of building it would make us tighter, not pull us apart. There are details I wish I'd done differently. I should have had a plan B for the Saturday slot. I should have told the interviewers that the slot clashed with a plan and asked if there was any flexibility. I should have told her the moment they offered Saturday and asked if she wanted me to fight it. I should have told her, honestly, how much pressure I felt because of my family situation. I should have let vulnerability be my default, not my shame. I also think about the cost of pride. There's a weird male pride thing where you don't show weakness, where you chase what you imagine is the fix, the job that will heal everything. And you forget that the person you love is watching you make that attempt and wants to be part of it, not only present once it's fixed. Pride makes you pick fights with the people who might stay through the worst of it. The worst nights have been the ones where I imagine her board the plane back home, her hands folded, eyes empty. I imagine her telling her friends that she gave someone real a chance and it fell apart. I imagine her waking up and moving on and finding someone who will be physically present and get annoyed at how pathetic I am about it. Sometimes in the quiet of the house, I can see both perspectives like two movies playing at once. And that is the thing that eats me. Love is not a logic test, and yet logic and timing and luck decide so much. People online love to throw out judgments. I've seen white hiei and NTA replies on other threads when friends tell me similar stories. But this is not the kind of thing that resolves into neat labels. The truth is messy. I was selfish and also trying to be responsible. She was hurt and also trying to be principled. If you asked me to pick a label for myself, I'd say I fumbled. I made choices that communicated the wrong things. I underestimated what presence means to different people. I misallocated a resource, my physical time. There's a deeper hurt, too. The way being unemployed makes you feel small. It's not just about money. It's about being reduced to a person who needs to beg for time to be taken seriously. It's about how every decision becomes a ledger entry in which you keep track of what you gave up for what. My choice to take interviews felt like survival. Her choice to leave felt like protecting herself. Both survival and self-protection are reasonable human instincts. I don't want to be sanctimonious about lessons learned, but there are a few. First, if someone is flying across a country to meet you, you prioritize them in the ways they need. In a story, that doesn't mean you cancel everything else, but you actively find ways to make them feel seen. Second, transparency is an active verb. You don't just tell people facts, you show them how those facts will affect them. Third, if your life is messy, don't think that building stability later will console someone now. Some people need the scaffolding already built. I've tried to reach out and ask for a conversation, a real closing, not more arguing. I've offered to return the plane ticket money, which she said she didn't want, to meet for coffee, just to apologize without explanation, to give her space forever if that's what she needed. She's not responded to the offers. That silence is a kind of verdict I didn't expect. It's finality dressed as absence. Sometimes at night, I replay our calls when we were not fighting. There was one voice message she sent months ago where she rambled about an engineer she worked with who made terrible coffee, and she laughed so hard she snorted. I love that memory because it's tiny and human. That's the thing I didn't want to lose. I keep thinking about small moments instead of the big dramatic ones, because the small moments are what made her real to me. To friends I say, I didn't cheat, I didn't lie, I didn't intentionally hurt her. To myself I say, you misread, you misprioritized, you fumbled. To strangers I suppose I would say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the indifference I accidentally showed, for the times I let job anxiety look bigger than her. I'm sorry for not choosing, in front of her, to make the trip feel like the priority she deserved. I'm also sorry that there isn't a simple fix for this aside from growing up faster than I have. There is anger in here too, raw and petty. I'm angry she left without confronting me face to face. I'm angry she didn't give me a chance to prove I was trying. But I also know that anger is a lazy blanket for pain. She probably left because she couldn't stay in a limbo any more than I could. She left because she didn't owe me patience when I was not giving her the proof she needed. It's been almost a month since she left. I've had a couple of interviews since then. One gave me a part-time contract that might turn full-time. Another was a polite rejection. I keep walking through my parents' house like I'm carrying a fragile thing everyone knows about but won't name. I sleep in the old room and keep my phone face down because seeing her name and a last goodbye text makes me feel like a live wire. I keep asking myself, am I the asshole? I suspect most people answering on Reddit would split it. Some will say I prioritized work over love, and that's fine. Some will say she should have waited because she knew my situation. I think the fairest thing I can say is, I was not the monster in this story, but I was careless. I treated a living promise like an item to be rescheduled rather than a fragile thing to be guarded. That carelessness hurt someone I cared for, and I can't unhurt her. If you want a tidy moral, it's this. When you make promises that mean something to someone else, treat them like promises. When you have to choose between two things that matter, your future and someone who wants to be part of it, don't assume the future will forgive the present. Some people will wait, some people will not. Recognize that both are valid. I still hope, in a private, shriveled part of me, that she'll reply to one of my texts and we'll have a brutal, honest conversation and maybe find a way back. More realistic me knows that if we do talk, no outcome is guaranteed. I might get back what I had. I might walk away. Either way, the slippery part of me knows that what I can control now is how I act next. Be more present, be clearer, and when I say I'll be there, actually be there. So am I the asshole? I don't know if anyone gets to badge this neatly. I messed up. I hurt someone. I tried to do the responsible thing and seemed, to her, irresponsible to the one thing that mattered in the moment. That's enough to be embarrassed about forever. Maybe that's the punishment, knowing you could have done better and not getting a do-over. Maybe that's the whole lesson.